And as I circulated the images to say, who is this person, I realized that certain officers made lots of identifications. So if I put out 100 images, I'd probably get about 50 identifications, but it wasn't from 50 different officers. Some officers made 10 and 20 identifications. So over time, I began to work with a man called Professor Josh Davis, who's from Greenwich University, and we obtained in the end some EU funding to do some testing, and we started to find people who Harvard University in the States had designated as super recognizers, people who've got an amazing ability to remember faces. Now, this is not, you can't be taught this. It's just something that you are born with, and that's where the work came from. Yes, we can measure it, so it is measurable.
Mm-hmm.
So we've developed, there's tests been developed in several places, including New South Wales and Australia, and others. But the University of Greenwich, we've got definite tests that we can test three abilities really. One is a short-term memory, or looking at images. So this is ideal if you are a passport officer. So you're at the passport desk and somebody presents a passport, you look at their face, and you are the best person to say, this is the same person as on this passport. Or that person could be concerned with being given two images. Is this the same person, yes or no?
Mm-hmm.
Then we look at people, we can also find people who've got long-term ability. So you show them a face and they'll remember that face in 6 months or 6 years. So that's obviously very good if you're a patrol officer, whether you're a police officer or a detective, or you're a soldier on patrol and you're looking for terrorists or criminals, and you think, well, 6 months ago I saw that face, grab that person now. Yeah. We also test for people who are good at spotting faces in crowds. And so whether that's at live, so somebody's at a football match and they're looking for a hooligan who's a leader of the hooligans and grabbing hold of him, or you're a demonstration and you want the ringleader removed, or you're watching it on CCTV, and that could be afterwards. So in England, we had a terrible tragedy, the Hillsborough tragedy, where 96 people were killed in a football crush, and the police had made all sorts of mistakes. It was super recognisers who found the last 16 people in the crowd. They needed that for evidence. Or the London riots of 2011, you know, there's 4,000 people identifying that. In that case, an officer, you've seen the story about Andy Pope, there's another officer in London, Gary Collins. The facial recognition software identified one person out of 4,000. Gary Collins, a human being, identified 180. So it's a skill that's very adaptable. And of course, it could be used in Turkey, because Turkey will have crime problems, it'll have terrorism problems, which are not unique to Turkey. They're the same problems as happen throughout the world. And a local police chief or local army officer in Turkey will know that certain of his men, women have got this skill, or the police chief knows who's got this skill. So if there's something happens, like a big crime, a big incident, the chief knows which officers to bring in and say, right, I want you to either find this person in this crowd, or I want you to watch all this video and find these criminals. So it just makes the police or the army or the security services of Turkey or any other country a bit more efficient at what they do. With facial recognition software, it requires very high quality images. So we all know if we go to the airport, you can use the e-passport gates. You have to stand there, you have to look directly at the camera so that it's got a front-on face. It's at the right angle, the lighting above you is perfect, the background is painted, and sometimes it fails even then. But with humans, you know yourself that you could possibly recognize your mother, your brother, your sister, your father, possibly from the back of their head if they're walking down the street, because there's all sorts of cues that come into the human mind. And as we've said, we live in a very different world now. Who could imagine a year ago that you could go into a bank and they say, wear a mask? You know, people who've, and there's images, which I can send you, you can see them on the articles, where people have got a face mask on or a scarf and they've got something on their head, and yet the super recognizer recognizes them by their eyes. On the other side, with the university, we did testing where people wore just what we call a balaclava in England, so you would just see their eyes, okay? But then we did also testing where people wore dark glasses, so you could see everything but their eyes. But the super recognizer still managed to do both. So they're just a valuable resource in, say, border control security or policing or military operations
Correct.
that just makes a difference. You know, it's not going to solve every crime, but it would solve a lot more crime. In all investigations, the key element really is to get a name, because if somebody says, right, I know this suspect, whether it's by fingerprints, by DNA, or by super recognising image, it's Billy Smith. Once you've identified that person, then you can use all sorts of other things. So you can look at their fingerprints, you can look at their mobile phone to see if
Correct.
they've been there. None of us know in Turkey, but certainly in England, there's super recognised units, and there's several police forces, not just the Metropolitan Police, but the City of London Police have got super recognisers, Thames Valley Police. In Australia, the Queensland Police have got a special super recognised unit. And one of the biggest places is Germany. I did help the German police after some sex attacks. And as a result of that, super recognisers are very well respected in Germany. So there's units in Stuttgart, Berlin, Munich, North Rhine-Westphalia, and other places. So Germany is probably one of the most active places for super recognisers. And of course, I speak to police forces from all over the world. I'm speaking to the Argentinian police, some US law enforcement agencies. And so it's like everything. It has to start somewhere, like fingerprints and DNA